I'm Keith McCullough, and welcome back. If you've stuck it out here with me for the third straight, stuck it out with the Canadian accent, I appreciate that. We're going to go from macro to stock picking. Now, this guy's made some, I'd say you went all macro and Sam Bankman-Fried with me on one of these, Marc, but we're not, I don't think we're going to do that today. You never quite know what we're going to get with Marc, but we're going to certainly get some conviction and some good research. So, Marc, thanks for joining me. I know you're excited to do so.
Keith, thanks for having me. I got plenty to talk about, and if we go overtime, people get it for extra free.
Extra free.
I just want to know what time the curfew is, because I'm ready to go.
I like it. I like it. And you're all cleanly shaven. You're looking very sophisticated for us here. You got a good camera angle. So this is going to get good in a hurry. We're going to do. We're going to try to hit on at least 4, 5, 6 different stock ideas. Marc goes both ways, like I do, longs and shorts. So let's start with one that we've spent a lot of time on actually on Hedgeye TV, which is Beyond.
Well, Beyond is really something. It's the old Overstock, and I really, really like this deal. I'm going to be very Hedgeye centric today. And the first thing I want to say is I just want to make it very clear. These are my opinions and my views. I have money, substantial money where my mouth is. I'm long Beyond. I'm long what I'm talking about. I'm short what I'm talking about. And I've been there for a while. But these are my views. These are my opinions. I encourage everyone to do their own work. I believe in every single thing I say. Sometimes I can get colorful. Sometimes you may not like my language today. And if you don't, I apologize ahead of time. But that's just what I wanted to get out. Now, Beyond. I think your retail team, McGuff and Jeremy, have done a tremendous job here. They were right predicting that Overstock was on the wrong track when the situation was going down. And I recognize that, and I could have done one of two things. I could have jumped ship. I could have said, this is a mess, and turn the page and go to the next name, or I could try to fix it. And I believed in it so strongly, I fixed it. And I wanted to fix it, and I brought in Marcus Lemonis. I wrote letters to the board. I was aggressive. I said Marcus needs to be the executive chairman. They sent me back a letter threatening to sue me, and sue me twice. And basically, I told them and their lawyers to completely go and fuck off. Well, the chairman resigned. The CEO resigned. Another board member resigned. And Lemonis is in full control. And as you guys saw in the presentation you did with Lemonis, let's say a month ago, he is a one and only. He is motivational. He is organized. He is a marketing and business ninja. As he was questioned by McGough, how do you have the time for this? He said he has no kids. Business is his life.
Really? That's interesting.
Lemonis right now is getting paid 0 in cash, and he has 2 million options between 40 and 60. So this guy is in the race car to win. So what is Beyond today? Beyond is a combination of the Bed Bath & Beyond website, which is doing well. He's growing sales while Wayfair is declining. They just turned Overstock.com back on April 1. I don't know, it's kind of April 9th-ish, so it's been going for 8 days. I think it's doing well. He acquired Zulily for next to no money. Zulily gets turned on between now and the end of June. And he's developed something called Backyard.com, and sort of they're trialing it, and it looks really good. And so that's going to be a freestanding deal. So they did $1.5 billion sales last year. Lemonis came out and says he expects to do $2 billion in sales this year. which is a pretty strong growth rate, and the street just doesn't believe it. They have their number somewhere between $1.8 billion and $1.9 billion. So Lemonis has the bar set high for himself. The street doesn't believe it. The stock is 30, give or take, up from 16, down from 38, down from 120 a couple of years ago. And I think literally he is going to clean the streets with Wayfair. Wayfair is over-leveraged. Wayfair has a balance sheet problem. Wayfair has a management problem. The guy lies like a rug. They keep missing numbers, but the street loves Wayfair and ignores Beyond. And your guys have done an awful lot of work on this thing. I mean, again, we can respectfully disagree, and Jeremy and I went at it on one of these things a while ago, and I just told him to keep an open mind. Keep an open mind and chat with Lemonis. But I think I always say, bet the jockey, not the horse. And I think he's the best jockey around. I think he is a fantastic operator. He's a fantastic human being. I talk to him from 2 p.m. to 2 a.m, depending on the day. We both don't sleep too well. But he's a passionate guy. And the stock's under-owned. John Thaler at JAT owns approximately 10% of it. And he's a driven, that guy's an animal in himself. So I met him through this adventure. So, I mean, I like it a lot. I think he's gonna beat street numbers. And you have a lot of, as you would say, shots on goal. I can win on Beyond, on Bed Bath & Beyond. They're going to be rolling out Baby. They're going to be rolling out Bridal. They're going to be rolling out Back to School. I can win on Overstock.com. I can win on Zulily. I can win on Backyard. But the one thing I think people don't have an appreciation of in this story, and I've talked to Marcus about it, is he knows everybody. His black book or Rolodex back in the day is exhaustive and huge. So look for him to bring influencers into the various sites and various stories. Who could he bring in? He could bring in a Kardashian. He could bring in a Bobby Flay. He could bring in a Carrie Underwood. He could bring in a Dale Earnhardt Jr. for Backyard. He can bring in people which will attract folks to the site and give people their own lines, give people incentive to sell what they're pitching in terms of options. So don't bet against Marcus. And he has 2 million options between 40 and 60. And I don't think he's signed up for that to watch those things fail. And again, the guy's busting his ass. He called me once shortly after Christmas when he was working on this thing. I said, "How you doing?" He says, "I'm not feeling so well. I collapsed a lung. I'm in the emergency room, but don't tell anybody." And but that's the kind of guy who's running this show. So a guy like that, I'm in, and I am in deep. And I believe in this thing. And your analysts on this thing are exceptional. You're the research guys who you've compiled are fantastic. And Porter Collins and I were talking about this earlier today, that you've really put together some real all-stars who aren't afraid. They're not afraid to mix it up, and they have the courage of their convictions. So I think McGuff and Jeremy have this thing cold, and I've liked it. Its stock's been all over the map, and I still like it, and I like it a lot. I like it because the right guy is in there. And I don't give a fuck that they tried to sue me twice to get me to shut up to drop the ball here. I will see this thing through.
Well,
So-
it's interesting to see the belief and the disbelief at the same time. Like the belief, which I'll come back to, is this guy. Like a lot of people, our feedback, the institutional community of investors who would be buying this in size, not all of them knew Marcus Lemonis. And then on the disbelief side, you got a stock with a lot of baggage that, for a long time has burned people, right? So, and it's taken 2 pretty good runs at his first strike, like into the high 30s and failed. So, like, I guess the bet would definitely be the third time's a charm. But can you take a step back on, I mean, this guy has first of all, he's still in the prime of his business career. I think he's around 50 years old. He was orphaned. He came to an adopted family, I believe, in Florida. Started his career at a Chevy car dealer, for maybe his uncle. The guy's a grinder, right? Like, he is like the quintessential American capitalist success story.
I mean, Marcus is a dear friend, and I have all sorts of Marcus Lemonis stories to tell, but I'll simply say I've never met anyone like him in my life. He is driven. I mean, I'm driven to no end, but he's a close second to me, but he's more political and he's easier to deal with than someone like me. But he is determined to succeed. He will not go with one rock unturned till it happens. And he doesn't miss numbers. He won't, he put out that $2 billion. He didn't have to put out $2 billion for this year. He put out $3 billion for next year that he thinks he can do. And he is determined to make it happen. And if he has to move heaven and earth to make it happen, he will. But he is a guy who started with nothing. He was left on an orphanage in Lebanon at 4 days old. Guys who are left on an orphanage steps at 4 days to turn into what he's turned himself into is truly extraordinary. And he's an extraordinary human being. And I'm lucky that he puts up with my sorry program, and that when I said that he'd be perfect for this, he could have said, hell no. But he said, it's intriguing. This is going to be one of the greatest turnarounds of his life, and he can't wait to see the story. So I'm just excited, and I'm in. And I think the people on Wall Street who follow the stock have their heads so far wedged up their ass, they're not even spending time to figure it out. I mean, they listen to this Wayfair guy song and dance and bullshit, and all he does is cut numbers, but he talks so smoothly, he gets all these Wall Street guys to buy in as the numbers suck. So you want to, there's only one thing worse in life than being my enemy. There's only one thing, and that is competing with Marcus Lemonis. And good luck to everyone. I mean, he's basically wiped the streets of them in the camping business, and the people who compete with Camping World, he's wrecked, and he's gonna really do a number in this home furnishing vertical. And by the way, it's only a $300 billion market, of which Beyond has a very, very, very small share. So I bet huge on the guy. I bet huge on the guy. I bet on the setup. I bet that he bought Zulily for next to nothing. I mean, he bought, he's got it going. And
I like it.
I talked to him about ideas, and some of my ideas are great and some of them suck, but I trust him. I trust him with a significant amount of my money.
Well,
so
on this one, for him to just to get halfway to where the stock, to your prior point, was, I mean, this was at one point $120 stock. Just to get halfway there is at the top end of where he gets paid on his options, right? So $60 being that price, so, and that would be a double from here. So I mean, it's very typical, like McGough likes these, as he calls them, multi-baggers, but it's atypical to find somebody that we, again, the Hedgeye institutional investor community is not small, right? It's like trillions in assets under management. And to a lot of people, he was new. So I think it's just going to take, maybe a little bit more time and space. But to your point, if the guy doesn't miss numbers, then giddy up. So that's my signal would agree with that. I want to get to the next one on what's not been a shitty idea of Marc Cohodes, which is being long. This one, Glasshouse Brands, GLASF, which is incidentally, and again, we didn't tee this up to just push ideas that my analysts like. I mean, but this one is not well covered, and this is something that's also a multi-bagger, is it not?
Well, again, Glass House is an interesting story. So back when I was at the hedge fund, I employed this young fellow named Russell Line, Lynde, and he now is at Park West. And I gave him all my bad habits, and he's picked up a lot of good ones since he's been at Park West. So he calls me one day and he says, you should look at this glass house. It's, they have a 1.5 billion acre capacity unicorn greenhouse in Southern California, low cost guy, highest quality, things like that. And I thought he was out of his mind till I actually did research on it and read Howard's stuff. Now, Howard Penny and I go back to when he was at Morgan Stanley, when he was the first guy recommending something called Starbucks. So again, I am not, a sugary guy, as you will all figure out later in this thing.
Sugary.
We're going to go with the sunny part of me right now, because things are about to get nasty a little later on. But Penny is probably the best CPG consumer guy I've ever met. And he's probably about as old as me, and he's still going at it. And he loves this glass house. And when I read his stuff, this thing can go crazy. So there's a fellow out there, Aaron Edelheit, and he's at Aaron Value. He sent me something, and I think it's important to read for people to understand. It says, Glass House can produce 1.5 million pounds of cannabis at a cost of approximately $100 a pound when they fully utilize their capacity. They currently are only producing 20% of what they can, but they're selling it for around $300 a pound, since their cannabis cannot cross California state lines. In other states, cannabis sells for much more, as much as thousands of dollars a pound. Once interstate commerce restrictions fall, Glass House has the opportunity to annually earn its market cap once or twice over when its capacity is fully utilized. Let me repeat that. Once interstate commerce restrictions fall, Glass House has the opportunity to annually earn its market cap once or twice over when its capacity is fully utilized. Until then, it should thrive in California, where it has its size and scale advantage and should earn solid returns in the world's largest cannabis market. So that's someone who owns the stock, who's done an inordinate amount of research as well. So why could this thing be the grand slam of all grand slams? One, you could have down scheduling or descheduling. Right now, it's a class 1 drug. It could go to class 3 or descheduled. 2, trades in the pink sheets. And I think once we get to schedule 3, I think this and other legitimate American cannabis companies will trade on either the New York Stock Exchange or NASDAQ. I've spent a lot of my time talking to people there about this, and I think Schedule 3 is the hurdle and is the barrier. 3, people are lazy and have done zero work in this name. The stock is owned by nobody. The second this thing becomes a something, or the industry becomes, as institutions would say, investable, this is the horse and name to own. I wouldn't own a retailer. I wouldn't own a producer outside of California. And think of it this way, Keith. Cannabis in New Jersey that Glass House sells at $12 an eighth of an ounce sells for 75 an eighth of an ounce in New Jersey. The quality in California is much greater than that in New Jersey. The market in New Jersey is huge. Mm-hmm. Can't you have state-to-state commerce, at which point Glass House sells to New Jersey, sells to Arizona, sells to New York, sells elsewhere. And the numbers here can get crazy. And imagine a world where you live in New Jersey and you're only able to drink New Jersey wine made by New Jersey grapes, where you can't drink California wine, and you're paying 7 times more for that New Jersey wine than you pay for California wine. So I think these walls are going to come down. I think this is essentially like earning Anheuser-Busch as Prohibition ended. I think this is a generational opportunity. It's the only name I own in the space. And I think that people will die to own this name the second they can. And the market where it's inefficient, it's very inefficient. I think it's inefficient in terms of Glass House and some of these other cannabis names. And I think Penny's work here is outstanding. I think it's outstanding. Whatever you pay him, you should pay him more because it's really good stuff. And I think people will look back on our conversation, and B, Penny's work months and years from now and saying that fucking Howard Penny really had it. He really had it. He really had it with Starbucks. And I remember I was a young guy when he first picked that name up at Morgan Stanley. And if you could have owned Starbucks back then, you would have made yourself a lot of money. So I think Glass House is that kind of name. The operational guy, Graham Farrar here, is just, I call him the Michael Jordan of cannabis. I think he was born in a cannabis field. He's that good.
Well, so, it's a difference, right? Because you're basically, Starbucks became one of the most iconic brands in the world, and this is just outright low-cost producer versus selling price, way outside of, I think the national wholesale price, the average is $1,200, right, Marc? So
yeah, something like that. But Todd Harrison, again, who's in the space, he says every time he smokes Glass House flower, Glass House cannabis, he buys more stock because he said the quality is that good.
So there's that part too. Like that, I guess that would be the main thing, right? I mean, if you can also, because again, lowest cost producer to an opening, which is now a regulated market, dereg, and then you get, to your point, investors are allowed to invest in it. The only real thing that matters after that is the management team, the brand, and if that's the case, then you're good, right?
Yeah, that and at capacity of 1.5 million pounds, if their cost is $100 a pound and they sell the thing between $300 and $500 a pound or $300 and $600 a pound, you're looking at EBITDA, in the neighborhood of $350, $400 million annually. You put a 10 to 12 times multiple on that, you got a $60 to $80 stock, and and that's just for starters. So these guys are well run. They make money. They generate cash. They're based in Ventura, and it's an under followed name that people don't own. I mean, I'm a skeptical motherfucker. I really am. And someone who's almost as skeptical as me is Porter Collins, of The Big Short fame, and he owns this thing. He owns it. He thinks it's the best name in the space. So I think he's going to do a podcast on this thing and talk about it. And it's where people, I think, can miss it is it's not just cannabis. It doesn't, I'm not a cannabis guy. I mean, my girlfriend is a cannabis gal. I'm not a cannabis guy. I'm a stock guy who looks for idiosyncratic names where you can find them. The fact they're in cannabis, great. I used to be in Canandaigua wine when it was wine cooler at $3 before splits. It a $70 million cap back at the hedge fund. We owned 10% of the thing, sold it up 15 times, and now it's a $45 million cap as Constellation Brands. I've seen this stuff before. I'm not a wine cooler guy either back then, but this has the chance of going crazy, and part of that is going to be as the government wakes up and starts easing restrictions. I mean, they approved the stuff in Germany, and Aurora Cannabis, which their weed is so bad I wouldn't even burn it in a fireplace. That stock was up at 1.80% last week. No, I mean, who the hell would buy cannabis grown in a Canadian greenhouse, in an Arctic Mexican greenhouse? And by the way, Keith, you're my favorite Canadian by far. They need you back up there to run that shithole of a country.
Oh, I'm not like a cannabis guy, but I like cannabis stocks, in particular if Penny likes them. But what'll typically happen here for people that are watching this or heard or hearing about this name for the first time is they're like, oh, it went from $2 to $8.5. I missed it. And it's like, no. What Marc just said, just to walk you through the math, implies a company whose market cap is $5.5 to $6 billion. Okay? That's what putting a 12 multiple on a consumer staple company would get you. The company currently, yes, it went from 2 to 8.5, but it has a $500 million market cap. So this isn't like a 2 or a 3 bagger. This is a 10 bagger. And again, to be clear, I guess that's I want to go on to some other names as well. But my question, most basic question, is that like too much selling the dream, and why do it? Like, you don't need to do that. I mean, the stock could triple from here, and that would be fine.
Yeah, I mean, Philip Morris could also buy him out at a triple, and that would be fine. It would be disappointing, but it would be fine. But the math is the math here. I mean, the math isn't that confusing, because they do have $1.5 million of capacity when the greenhouses are built out. They just turned on a greenhouse, and they're going to double their capacity, and they have pricing. So the math on the $1.5 million pounds at between 300 and 600 a pound gets you to that 450 million EBITDA number. That's annualized. This thing will be cranking out cash, cranking cash out. And that's just on this phase. So it's not crazy. It's just simply doing the math. It's not like if you build it, they will come. They've built it. They have a less than 2% share in California, where there's still illicit pot. I mean, they're succeeding in the world's largest but most difficult market in the world. They're succeeding there. They're doing well. Now, if you, God forbid, get any government breaks, as in descheduling and or listing and or interstate commerce, the 10 bagger will be simple. And you know what? Look, names do go crazy, and we're in a broken but crazy world. So can there be a meme stock element to the most legitimate grower out there? Yeah, but you don't need that at 8. I'm just there, and I own this thing in the 3s. I own this thing in the 4s. I own it in the 5s, 6s, 7s, and I bought more the other day at 8 and change when it sold off for some whatever stupid reason. So I like this. I'm this and beyond. These are the bets. I mean, I got some Camping World, I got some Enovix, but these two right now, if I'm throwing fresh money at anything, these two are where I go. Now, Glass House is more speculative than a Beyond, but this guy Graham Farrar, who I say is the plant watcher, this guy knows what he's fucking doing. And they're having a analyst day or shareholder day, investment day, June 21, and I urge anyone who's interested to go out there and check it out.
The plant watcher. What a name.
Yeah, that's what I call him. I call him the plant watcher, but he's an exceptional human being. And again, not to blow smoke up anyone's ass, because I'm about to rip some people a new one here shortly. This Howard Penny has done a tremendous job, and I urge everyone to subscribe to his cannabis product. It's really good.
Well, thank you for that. Appreciate it. He's my partner, been here for a long time with me. And you're right, the guy's got, when I came to Wall Street at the end of, 1999, Howard was at Morgan Stanley. He taught me a whole bunch of what I didn't know, obviously, which is everything about things that he'd already been working on. And the guy's a big idea guy, and he's done a great job on this. So thank you for that. You just teed it up. We can't have we're 30 minutes in, and we haven't talked about a short yet. So I'll tee you up and take whatever one you want to go for first.
Well, I'm going to start slow, and we're going to end it up with a bang on this fraud criminal enterprise, B. Riley. So if anyone needs to go get yourself a drink or a shot of something, or smoke a Glass House joint before we get into B. Riley, here's your warning, because that is something. So let's get into another Hedgeye name, Helen of Troy, which I've been short and we've talked about, and it has just been a shitty stock. It's been a great short because the market has gone up, speculative stuff has gone up, and this thing is just dead. It's like anywhere between 105 and 108. It's been as low as probably 90, been as high as 130. But these are it's a roll up of garbage. They have a horrible balance sheet. Again, McGuff doesn't like it, or however he pronounces his last name. Brian doesn't like it. Jeremy doesn't like it. Their products don't sell. They don't grow. They have way too much debt. They have way too much inventory. And, I was just by a random store in Sonoma County yesterday. And again, one of the problems is they sell this garbage and this stuff's been on sale forever.
Been for sale forever.
Who is that?
These are those thermoflasks. They
It's
compete. They compete with Stanley, and they've been on
good thing
sale.
there's no competition in that category.
No, I mean the last person to buy a thermoflask drink whatever would have been 93 5 years ago. I mean, there's no one buying. I'm glad I make you laugh. There's no one buying that bullshit anywhere. They're buying the Stanley thing.
Yeah.
So
that's all I have 3 daughters, and that's all they wanted for Christmas was the Stanley.
Exactly. So when you compete against the Stanley in store shelves everywhere you go, Dick's Sporting Goods, grocery stores, Oliver's in Sonoma County, wherever you go, they have these thermoflasks lined up on sale. You can't give them away. And you got Yeti competing against them. So everything that Helen of Troy sells is not only Me Too, it's not clever. There's way too much inventory. And there's a quarter out there, and it may be this quarter, this company blows the fuck up. The CEO just left. They've had musical chairs at the CFO spot. The current CFO showed up 9 months ago and had to disclose he owned puts, and that was embarrassing. So he sold his puts, and then he had to refile that he didn't own any puts. I'm being serious here.
Really? I did not know that part.
Yeah. So Brian picked this thing up, I don't know, somewhere around 110, 112. It has just been, again, you may not want to short stocks, but it has been a miserable long in a very speculative time. So I think their hair business is caca. I think this thing is a mess. I mean, they used to hype this thing back in the day during flu season that people needed humidifiers. I didn't think people even bought humidifiers anymore. So everything here is dead end. I think they haven't made an acquisition in a while. They don't have a balance sheet that can support many acquisitions. Their accounting is absolutely terrible. So I'm short it. I've been short it. I think it's garbage, and it wouldn't surprise me they blow up when they report numbers in April. And if it doesn't blow up this quarter, it could be the next quarter. So I'm a patient man. It's, kind of set it and forget it. There's not a lot of volatility. The stock trades all right. I just think it's garbage. It's absolute garbage.
Yeah, you're right. You're a patient man, but you're also, like, you didn't give yourself enough credit here. And you mentioned their hair business. You're also a man who's an expert on the wig business.
There's a wig indicator that has been very good for me, I think. And the former CEO, he didn't wear a wig, but he used to wear those like Foster Grant glasses that, are kind of clear on the inside and dark on the outside. And he took his corporate picture wearing these things, and he looked like, he had like a brain issue because they were half on, half off. He just looked like a complete schlep. And I don't know what CEO would allow a picture like that to be in an annual report. So he's gone. There's someone new in the chair. Usually when CEOs go, the new person tries to set the bar lower, but I think this thing is going to blow up. And I think I don't know how they account for inventory at people's stores, but there's clearly a thermoflask issue that's a problem. And whenever even you walk into Costco, another one of those brands is OXO, they're always offering a huge rebate on their shitty products that don't work. And again, those things are usually piled to the sky. So I think Helen of Troy is problematic. Again, you don't have to short stocks if you don't want. I'm not advocating anyone short anything, but this thing is just a fucking mess. So I just sure wouldn't own it, and I'm short it.
Good. How long you been short B. Riley?
Let's get to B. Riley after I talk about this piece of shit called Trupanion. Which I brought up at your guys' conference last May, which again, we talked about it at 30. and let's say it's 26. This thing sells pet insurance. They lose money. They burn cash. Pets are actually going down. They've gone through, every person at management's gone except the CEO and the president. They've been through 3 CFOs in the last 9 months. They couldn't get the 10K. 10K has control issues, which they still haven't been able to fix. They keep missing numbers. And book value for this specialty insurance company is now 5. When I spoke about it at the conference, it was 6. So specialty insurance companies that lose money should not trade at 5 and change times book. Best case, it would trade at 3 times book, which is 15. Worst case, fraction of book, which is sub 5. And this is just garbage. Recently, one of the founders who was on the VC firm, Mavron, just resigned from the board. This thing is just a train wreck. Again, you don't have to short stocks, but you should own garbage like this. And management lies. They don't answer questions. NBC did a special report last summer about price gouging in pets. And again, in a tight economy, and I don't know if the economy's tight, loose, good, bad, however it is, the last thing you're going to do is pay a pet insurance bill that's gone from $100 a month to $600 a month over the last 4 years. So that's kind of the first to go. That's even if you want to keep your pet. So I think pets are down. I think this is a scam situation. It's a quasi-manipulated stock. But it trades. But I think it's just garbage. It's been a good short. It's been a good short because, again, I'm on a set it, forget it. I think you're going to show up and they're going to shit all over the bed. I think they're going to miss the first quarter. I think they missed the second quarter. And it wouldn't surprise me if more people from management go. So I hate Trupanion. I brought it up a year ago in May. It's been shit. It's been a shit stock since then. And I'm still short it. And I'm actually short more now than I was then.
It's a thing that people get wrong and again, you've said it a couple times, and both times that you said it, I didn't totally like it, which is you don't have to be a short seller. I like short selling bad guys. I mean, that's great. I like making money. That's great. I mean, this is not what short selling was made out to be, by the old wall and all of its bankers, which is that we're the bad guys. No. We're highlighting bad behavior, no moral compass, in some case wig factors, to your point, but just bad taking advantage of people and their pets in this case. I mean, there should be something, and again, it's not the short sellers that made Marc money on this. It was gravity. It was being right? The whole concept that a stock's going to go down because some evildoer in Stamford, Connecticut agrees with Marc Cohodes, that's complete bullshit. If the business looks like their business has, you see a 3-year chart that during a raging bull market, this stock has done nothing but make lower highs and lower lows the whole time.
Yeah. See, the deal is why I'm like this, Keith. So I'm going to be 64 in June. So I'm sort of old school. And the shit that I can't stand is what I would call the smash and grab crowd, which just goes and yells fire in the crowded theater, makes some big story up, the stock goes down, they cover it, and you never hear from it again. If I'm going to start the fucking game, I'm going to finish the fucking game. And I've been in Trupanion for a while. I talked about it last May. I'm still here. I'm still going strong. And I think this thing is going to blow the fuck up this year, and everyone's going to see what a horrifically bad model it is. They're bad guys running a bad business model with trying to rip people off and pull on their heartstrings, getting insurance for dogs. I mean, don't get insurance for dogs. Put the money aside, put it in a savings account, and if your dog gets sick, you have money, which is compounded to pay for your dog. And if you really think about it, is the only people who will keep this product around, even though the price goes up, is if you have a sick dog. Because if you have a sick dog that's constantly sick, you have Trupanion by the balls. It's called negative selection. And I think that's what they're stuck with. They have sick pets in their book because if you have a healthy pet, you wouldn't sign up for this garbage. And you sure wouldn't keep it after they gouge you on price. So I'm still there. I'm still in it, and I love where I sit on the track.
He's still there. He says it all the time. I really appreciate that about you because, having been a short seller, I mean, it's not being a short seller. I think we even put Marc Cohodes as short seller on the thing. It's being a risk manager. There's a lot of different components to this. Of course, we're long plenty of companies, good people, good companies, good businesses. Marcus Lemonis is not the dude who runs Trupanion. So again, there's a huge difference. And I think, well, personally, I'll give myself an A in marketing that side of short selling right now, just because I get to evaluate myself in real time. So how about that? Now we got another one. The problem with this last one, Marc, is that I have, I live in Fairfield County, right? There are plenty of people, that I know that work at this place.
Okay, let's get into this.
So now they're not going to talk to me. So before we get into that,
I honestly don't give a fuck.
I know you don't.
If they talk to you, because when I'm done with B. Riley, these guys are going to be emptying the fucking Zamboni of the ice when I'm done with these guys. So let me say a couple things about me. I do this because in some ways I enjoy it. In some ways I'm really good at it. But in some ways I'm doing society a favor by ridding frauds and criminals from the street. Bryant Riley is a fraud. Bryant, if you want to sue me for that, please, by all means do, because I will discover you into the ground and expose what people don't know about you publicly. B. Riley is a fraud. B. Riley is also a criminal operation. If you guys want to sue me for that, be my guest, because I can prove it. James Gibson, who's at Aurelius, and I have written over 20 letters. That's a number greater than 19 to FINRA, the SEC, the DOJ, their auditors, and some to their board. We've also written to FinCEN. My lawyers, plural, have been in touch with these various organizations. When you're accused of financial fraud, of which these guys are, and you can't file a 10K, there tends to be a problem. When you're late in filing your 10K and you check the box that you plan on filing 15 days later and you don't, that's a bigger problem. The fact that the stock's gone from 16 to 26 to wherever it is in that period of time just proves that it's a manipulated security. Let me make one thing clear. As driven as I am, when paid Flax and B. Riley employees post on Twitter a picture of my son and I, which I posted on his 35th birthday, and they say, the kid looks like he has AIDS. He doesn't have AIDS. He has cerebral palsy. And the last person to do that was a Novastar promoter, and Novastar went to zero. Zero. And B. Riley will go to a negative number. And I know who the posters are. One of them is a current employee of B. Riley, and his name is Greg Johnson. Greg, you should hire a lawyer because you're in deep trouble, buddy. Deep trouble. Their PR flack, a guy named Mike Frank, leaks MNPI to all sorts of investors, including Citadel, where Bryant Riley met with them prior to not filing a 10K. So the criminality and illegal behavior at B. Riley starts at the top, which is Bryant Riley, and works itself all the way down. Bloomberg reported that they're under SEC investigation. The company came out at midnight and denied it. This from Disclosure Insight, which is my friend John Gavin, who runs Disclosure Insight, published on March 26th. New warning added to watch list. SEC investigation at B. Riley confirmed. An early signal of undisclosed SEC investigative activity, first round, came on the 18th of January, was then confirmed as ongoing on the 18th of March, 2024. A second undisclosed SEC investigation was announced in January of 2024. No clear disclosure of SEC investigative activity found in search of SEC filings back to February of 22. More details available. And he goes on and on and on. I urge you to subscribe to Disclosure Insight, which is John Gavin. So these guys issue an 8K last night about hacking at one of their failed businesses called Target, but yet still deny they're being investigated by the SEC. One of their partners, if you will, a guy named Bryant Khan, is an unindicted co-conspirator in something called a prophecy fraud, of which Gibson and I found prophecy-related assets at the B. Riley brokerage firm. The company can't file a 10K. The company files preliminary numbers, says they'll file a 10K and can't file a 10K. Their auditor at the broker-dealer, Spicer Jeffries, was knocked by the PCOAB, so they couldn't do it. So they found a laundromat firm in Chicago to sign off on it, which we don't know how they possibly could do that, given they have stolen assets sitting in the broker-dealer. So that's an issue. And you have to wonder why on earth this is allowed to go on. They have $2.7 billion in franchise group debt, which they need to consolidate. They have a $600 million Nomura loan, which is tripping covenants. They have various preferreds, which are behind the Nomura loan, which they can't pay back. And I have sources who know Nomura quite well, and people in Nomura laugh that the B. Riley preferreds, this debt, are insolvent and worthless. So B. Riley is a publicly traded dumpster fire of fraud and corruption, and how the stock is allowed to trade, how it trades, how it's allowed to even go on is beyond me. And I'll say this, sort of, Keith, before we really get into it. It's widely known I helped expose FTX, and I did expose Silvergate and Signature Bank. Signature was seized by the government. Silvergate ceased operations. It's a very good and clear assumption to make that I've been or have been contacted by the criminal authorities on any of those three names recently. And the conversation has come up. How can we do better? Or what were we missing? And part of that is that I think over a long period of time, like me or hate me, I don't really fucking care. I've exposed some really bad stuff. And I've been part of some major, major frauds that I've exposed. One, B. Riley is the worst I've ever seen. Soup to nuts. It touches all the bases. And two, when asked by the criminal authorities, it shouldn't take a year and change to come down on the Silvergates or Signatures of the world. My information is out there. Aurelius's or Gibson's information is out there. Nate Kopakar, who's at Friendly Bear, his information is out there. The government needs to move and needs to act quickly so innocent people don't lose their ass here. Because B. Riley is also a wealth manager. And the loss that they've taken at Arena Group, Babcock Wilcox, Franchise Group, Nogan, all these various things, Applied Digital, are just off the charts and need to stop. I mean, who's fooling who here? So I will not stop on Riley till this thing is in the ground, and will do everything I can to keep digging and exposing this thing the way it is. And if you think it's a big game to squeeze me or other people in frauds, you're making a huge mistake. This isn't a GameStop. GameStop, I've never been short, and GameStop was never a fraud. People may not have liked their business model, just like I don't like the business model of Helen of Troy or Trupanion. But B. Riley should not be in business. B. Riley gives everyone in the financial business, it's going to give everyone a bad name. And I'm not going to want to hear how easy it was or how obvious it was. Because again, I'm 64 fucking years old. And I've never seen a company, one, not file a 10K, B, not come with a 10K after the 15 days, C, not be able to still explain why they can't come up with it, and the stock go up 70% from when you can't file. That's not a normal market. That's not free enterprise. That's not free markets. That's just absolute bullshit. And to then, you want to bring my son into the mix? You want to bring him in the game? You will get the very best of me to end this once and for all. The very best of me. And whether you're Greg Johnson, who posts under his own name on Twitter, or other B. Riley employees who post on Twitter, you know, Mike Frank, there's a guy, Christian McDonald, he works at Kennedy Asset Management. Kennedy has blood on their hands too. And their PR firm, Collected Strategies, goes and pays people to post on Reddit boards all this bullshit. So I cannot wait for the feds to walk in there and shut this whole thing down. And again, Bryant Riley, Brian Kahn, you guys want any part of me? Just sue me, because I know exactly where to go, and I will end it once and for all. And as people have seen by this, I am a very patient fucking man. And I will outlast you. I will grind your dicks through the fucking dirt. And I will, as Keith would say, skate you into the concrete. So Keith, if your friends work at B. Riley and they can get a job anywhere, I suggest to them they get it. Because when this is said and done, people who work at this shithole will be fucking unemployable. Unemployable.
Yeah, that's a lot, especially when you say in context, you know, because we did have that discussion, Sam Bankman fraud, Silvergate. Those are big fish that were fried. And to put this one ahead of those in terms of the worst you've seen, that, you know, just knowing Marc's work and just listening to him, that's a meaningful statement. But when I said friends, I'm talking about people, you know, if you live in Fairfield County, you live in and around New York City, they're going to know somebody who worked at B. Riley. You're going to know people who worked at Lehman Brothers, right? There are a lot of, I should say, I mean, there are plenty of friends I had at Lehman Brothers because they were younger that had no idea what Tricky Dick Fuld had up his sleeve, right? It's the people that run the place, right? That's the point. And, you know, I've never told you this, but I mean, and I don't even know, well, it is pertinent because I felt it, and I don't have a lot of feelings. I'm not supposed to when it comes to trying to help people risk manage situations, and this one in particular. But, you know, my sister has cerebral palsy. That is just, you know, knowing that and what, you know, these kids go through to become, she's an adult now, she's, you know, really been a huge success story in our family against all odds. I know, but I don't know. Like, people come at me on Twitter pretty hard, you know, with a lot of bullshit. But if they took a picture of my sister and did something like that, I could see how that, and I wonder, Marc, was that what, when you prorate, like what is the worst fraud you've ever seen, did that emotional component of it piss you off that much that you would put it there, or you're talking about the fundamental analysis that you've done? Because I haven't looked at it.
Well, this guy, Phil Saunders, back in the Novastar days, actually threatened to kill him. Threatened to kill my son. So that was so when I've said I've been through it, I've been through it all. There's nothing that I haven't been through. But when these lowlifes have to resort to that, given what they've done, see, in Silvergate had a book value of 40, right? So you can make a bull case. I argued with Ram Alawala on YouTube and made him look like a fool, but he made a bull case. And Signature Bank was a real bank, and it was in the S&P 500, and they had real earnings and paid a real dividend, and they did all sorts of stuff, and people believed it. So there was a bull case there. And clearly there were guys, like O'Leary and Cartoon Network, who believed in FTX. But every rock I turn on Riley, one is worse than the next. Their investments are all down between 80 and 99%. They have no cash. They have no liquidity. They have an inordinate amount of debt.
How's that? Is this like largely the SPAC business that they got into, or like how is that even possible?
The SPAC business has gone away.
Right.
The SPAC business that has gone away. But these guys were so stupid. They invested in their own SPACs and gave their own company guarantees behind these SPACs.
Well, that I know. That's why I asked that part of the question.
Right, and a lot of these things are off balance sheet, and a lot of these things are hidden. And this is why Markham, who's their auditor, has a problem. And, truth be told, we sent Markham, Markham has 6 letters. And Serezny, who used to run the SEC's enforcement division, was hired by Markham. He works at that Dubois, however you pronounce that law firm. I think Markham, B. Riley's accounting firm, is in major problems. And I was communicating with Serezny, and I said, Markham is not my enemy, at least now. And he sends my lawyer a cease and desist. And, my lawyer and I said to him, basically, you don't know me too well. That's absolutely mild. So now my lawyers are communicating with Markham. But the problem is they did business with a guy named Brian Kahn. And Brian Kahn was part of this prophecy meltdown, which the SEC and the government and the Justice Departments is all over. And a lot of our evidence on Riley are government documents, outlining the fraud here. And the SEC out of Los Angeles, by the way, everyone who reaches out to me, I suggest that they write, a TCR whistleblower complaint to the SEC, and the SEC calls them back between 2 and 5 days. So the SEC out of LA is very, very active on B. Riley. Now, the fact that they want to, and Bryant Riley himself, the toad, has margin loans on his stock, which is another no-no. And he transacts for his kids, and his kids are in partnerships. I mean, this thing, everywhere you turn, it's a mess, which gives me conviction that it's the worst thing I've ever seen. So when you have active employees, like this guy Johnson, right, posting on Twitter, threatening stuff to the skeptics, right? Hedgeye guys don't do that. Goldman Sachs guys don't do that. You can't do that kind of stuff. I get robocalled at all hours by these B. Riley guys threatening me in my short position. Here's a text from John Gavin to Copacar earlier today. It says, funny, Marc did say to me, I've known Gavin forever. I will pass it along to him. He's very friendly with them. Gavin said, tell him I say hi. You can also tell him some clown called me a couple weeks ago threatening me over my Riley work. He claimed I was short and or coordinating with the shorts. I told him I've never shorted a stock in my life and haven't talked to a single person about Riley, both of which are true. Good times. So Riley has employed, or this collective strategies has employed people who robocall me at all hours and Copacar at all hours. And all we do is just keep blocking the numbers. So if you're running a legitimate show, you don't have to resort to shit like this. And again, if anyone from Riley, the PR the PR flack, Mike Frank, Bryant Riley, any of you guys want to debate me on Riley? I'll do a Spaces. Let's come on Hedgeye TV. Let's do whatever, because you guys are finished. And you know you're finished. The problem is, if you want to manipulate the stock to get guys out before you're finished, that starts to go over and break security laws, which you guys are doing. So I'm here and not going away. And if you think you're going to get me to go away, that shit you pulled with my son ensures I will never go away, ever go away, till you guys are finished. Finished. And that's not a physical threat either. That's just if you think that, I'm impatient or have something to do, I will make it my life's mission to finish this off. So I don't care. Take the stock to wherever you guys want. I know where it ends up. And this is way past money for me. I have plenty of money. I don't need money being short B. Riley. What I do need, and where I think will be great, because you guys can play this for the next 40 years, is when you guys are done and everything is outlined, the whole world will see what a massive fraud B. Riley is. And there's no escaping. There's nowhere for them to go. So
we're out of time here, and you're right, you did get to overtime, and the skating has been through the concrete on this name by you in particular. Again, no surprise there, but just putting this, let's just make an argument that Marc Cohodes is right, or say that there's a high probability that he's right when he says things like this on frauds. Again, I don't have to have my probability on it. I didn't do the work. I'm not the one that's getting threatened, but I do have him on our channel. Let's just say he's right, right? Because he has a track record of being really right. What if you could have listened in on a conversation about Bernie Madoff on this topic before it all went down, about Tricky Dick Fuld, Lehman Brothers? A lot of people, I know a lot of people that worked at Madoff that had no idea. Like I said, a lot of people at Lehman Brothers that had no idea. A lot of people at B. Riley that may or may not have an idea, but now they have an idea, right? And I think that, Marc, like when I think about Hedgeye and what it's become, and in all the humility that I can try to confess here, I would have never imagined that I could have not only the content platform, but the person on the other side of the conversation delivering a message like this. This is critical. It's critical for a lot of people that work there, people that are being affected by them, if he's right. Like, it's just something that Wall Street never had, but now you got it. Again, when we started Hedgeye, we didn't have Hedgeye TV. When Jim Cramer was saying Bear Stearns is going to be fine. Well, if I had Marc Cohodes on within an hour of that, he probably would have said they're not going to be fine. And there's a difference. There's a big difference. There's the truth and where it ends up, and then there's all the bullshit. And most of the bullshit, Marc, to your point, largely has to do with one thing, which is the other side getting paid. And that's the sad part. Wall Street's always been in the business of selling other people their stock under no moral code, and it's not all bad players. But like you said, one like this or one Sam Bankman fraud gives everybody else a really bad name.
Yeah, and I mean, the trick, again, we started it off sunny, and I don't want people to lose track of the glass house, which is outstanding. And I don't want people to think that I'm overly sunny on stuff I like or overly negative on stuff I don't like. But I'm going to leave it that I'm a heavily lawyered guy, folks, heavily. I drop 7 figures a year in legal fees. I am suing the DOJ and the FBI for the visit that they did with me on my medics. I am suing my medics. I'm suing Danny Guy. I'm suing Derek Snowdy for tapping my phones and hacking my emails. I am not a fuck around player when it comes to this stuff. And my timing, although at times can be wrong, I am not wrong on the facts. I am not. And I will take this Riley to the end of the earth and then some and back, if I have to. That's that's just that. And then we'll see. Sam Bankman-Fried, I didn't make a dime on. That was a public service. And that was just putting the breadcrumbs together. This stuff, I have hard evidence. And if I have to take out full-page ads in the Wall Street Journal and New York Times to publish every single one of my letters, I will do so. I will do so. Not an issue. I suggest, Bryant Riley, you come out of the building with your hands in the air, because you are not going to get away with it. Not at all. Just give yourself up, because it's over. Just over.
With that, thank you, Marc Cohodes, for having the courage to say what you did. And again, apologies about your son and what you had to deal with there. Again, that's part of the deal, as you know, unfortunately, sadly, disgustingly, that you and I deal with every day. But, you know, again, thank you for, again, all your ideas. You gave us, I think you gave us at least 5, and longs and shorts. So we appreciate the time, and I'll look forward to the follow-ups. I just checked my inbox, and if that's any, let's just say, if that's any signal, like if anything ever happens on Hedgeye TV that is categorically wrong, I will get plenty of sophisticated institutional investors that send me a note, all right? You could have anyone from Jim Chanos listening in on this, who's got a pretty damn good sniff detector, to anyone who's long the thing or short the thing or whatever. I don't have one email on this one, which means that people don't want to email about this one, which is another thing to think about as you continue to think. Again, Marc, thank you very much. We'll see you next time, man.
Thanks for having me, Keith. Have a great one.
You too. Hey, this isn't a place for us to paint the political fence. No. Nobody owns me. Nobody owns Marc Cohodes. If he's wrong, he's wrong. If he's right, he's right. Again, I wanted to have something here that's real. We had a real conversation about it, and it's on to the next play. Thanks for joining us today. We'll see you tomorrow.